on this week's GTA 5 O'Clock. We've played the PS4 version. Everything you need to know from our hands-on demo, the new first-person mode, new weapons, music, animals, and the all-important mysteries. It's all here in this week's huge GTA 5 O'Clock.
We're running with the shadows of the night. So baby, take my hand, it'll be alright. Surrender all your dreams to me tonight. They'll come true in the end.
Hello and welcome to this week's GTA 5 O'Clock. I'm your host, James Jarvis, and joining me, as ever, his co-host, Dan Dawkins.
Hello.
Hello, Dan. And that is one of the new tracks from GTA 5 on PS4 and Xbox One, which we've not only been to see, Dan, we've also played it.
Yeah, we've played it for over 2 hours. We've played it, GTA 5, on PS4. We've held the pad, we've seen it. We've got so much to tell you. We're going to tell you briefly about what we're going to have in today's show, and there's so much. We're going to tell you how the game looks. We're going to tell you what's new. We're going to tell you how classic missions feel when they're replayed. We've visited certain areas that are key to the Mount Chilliad conspiracy. Stay tuned to the end of the show for that. That is exciting. We've got new songs. We've got a confirmation of new modes. It's all here right in today's show.
That's right. So today, throughout the show, we'll be dropping a few more of those little tracks as musical interludes, just so you can see what kind of extra music there is in the game. But first up, Dan, let's cover the burning question. What does it look like on PS4?
Well, honestly, my first reaction was, and again, you go in with so much expectation, right? Because you think you know what PS4 will look like. You've seen the trailers, and the trailers look amazing, right? The PS4 trailers. So you're thinking, will it be as good in real life? Long story short, yes, it is. When it all is in the right place and all the effects coalesce and align, it looks staggeringly good, to the point where I think I was, I wouldn't say pinching myself, and I could obviously believe it, but I think if you'd shown that to me as a young child, once again, I would have thought it was a form of voodoo magic. That a game could look that good and let you do as many things with as much diversity as GTA lets you do is astonishing. Now, the headline news, and this may not have been confirmed, is the game runs at 1080p, 30 frames a second.
Yep.
Another big megaton. PC version will run at a staggering 4K.
Yes.
So it's capable of running at a staggering 4K. Your PC might not be.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's going to look unbelievable. But don't worry, because PS4 and Xbox One owners, it looks amazing on next gen. This isn't just like a slight high-res tarting up job.
No.
It's a really fundamental rework of what GTA 5 is. And the key thing is really, it's the richness, it's the detail, it's the particle effects. It's the smoke, it's the lighting. All of these elements that aren't always active on screen. But when they are, the game comes to life. Now, the biggest moments for me are like when we had like a Pegassi Zentorno, which is a great, beautiful sports car, loads of like different, almost like a very shiny chrome effect on it, and now the light bends and warps around that like you've never seen before. It looks such a solid object. When you've got that in like the Vinewood Hills streets at midnight with the neon fizzing, like blazing off the signs, that's casting shadows onto the street. The street, when it's laced with puddles and tipping down with rain, you can see the light bending in real time through the puddles. You can see the rain hitting the street and literally the individual specks of rain. You can see the fine stitching on the interior of the car. All the effects are there at once. You rev the engine, the smoke's billowing out, the volume of stuff happening all at once. It's breathtakingly good. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, but zoomed in close. GTA always looks best zoomed in close.
Yeah.
Sorry, James, I got carried away, but it's good, right?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, as you say, now it's in 1080p. It's a solid 30 frames a second. At night time, when you're blazing through like Vinewood Boulevard and things in your car, the lights are on, it's raining, and there's a thunderstorm. All those things together, it just looks phenomenal. It's so good. And
there's new effects like the smog effect you can see when you get up to the hills and you look down. You can really see like these low patch areas of smog that feel sort of slightly ethereal looking. You can see them and it looks amazing. You also get the same effect with the lightning. Now the lightning really, like real lightning, sort of, shimmers through the night sky, cuts it apart, and then just sort of fades away into a glow. And it looks, it's not like a laser line drawn on the screen. It really just like melts into action. Fantastic. And it's all these sorts of details. I mean, we'll talk at more length about the visuals when we talk through what we saw and what we played. But,
yeah, we've got loads to cover.
Yeah,
Absolutely
does it
loads.
deliver? You know, yes, it does. The caveat to that is, you know, at times it looks like the GTA you remember, because it is the GTA you remember. It's the same map, it's the same settings, but it's richer than you've ever known it. And like, when all the effects aren't going off, it's merely, and I use this term lightly, a very impressive high-res, smooth frame rate version of the game you've played. I thought when we were going through the Salton Sea area, that kind of thing, it felt, you know, much similar-ish to as I knew it. But when all the effects are blowing up, whew.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, if we can call it a problem, is that your brain so quickly adjusts to it looking amazing and new and high-res. There are points of it where you're going, oh, it's always looked like this. But when you go back to the PS3 version, you go, oh, it absolutely hasn't always looked like this. Like, just even like you were saying in the Alamo Sea and stuff, when you're flying over in a helicopter, the light shining off the lake as you get lower to it, and all of the wind effects and things like that stuff isn't in the PS3 or Xbox 360 versions as much, and it does make a massive difference.
Oh yeah, it does. And like James says, that's a key point, is that your brain's ability to accept things, you know, as they are is astonishing. So like 5 minutes in, you sort of think, oh, the game's always looked this way. And, you know, again, Rockstar showed us at the beginning, for this very reason, a new video, which may or may not be live as we speak, we're not sure yet, which showed the PS3 version and like a magical white marker going over it, showing the game looking PS4ised. And obviously that showed off the new levels of foliage, the way that would blow in the breeze, density of traffic, the vibrancy of the lights. A lot of the stuff you see in the trailers, right, but it really brought it home scene to scene.
Yeah. So, Dan, let's move on to, well, one of the other big things that we haven't even touched upon yet.
Yeah.
A brand new mode for not only GTA single player, but also online as well.
Yeah, this is huge. Now, we wanted to talk about, you know, how does it look? We've answered that. How does the game feel? How is it different? Well, you know, the visuals actually do make a difference to the feel in terms of it's so fluid now, and the objects look so solid that just playing it sort of felt more fun and responsive. But there's a fundamental mode change that, you know, and again, this was leaked and hinted at. There is now a full first-person functionality throughout the entire game. Full first-person mode. Now, this isn't just as I feared. Like, they haven't just put the camera inside the eyes of the character, and in every other way the game's exactly the same. It's just like a tech thing they did for fun. This is essentially a fundamental rework of the gameplay engine. So when you play in first person, you are playing a first person version of, you know, GTA 5, and not like a third person version where the camera's been tricked out to look like it.
Yeah.
Like, there's it's literally over like 3,000 animations for the gun reloads alone, which is astonishing. There must be tens of thousands of new animations. Now, you know, when you pop into the first person mode, which you do with the face pad,
Yeah, the little trackpad on the
yeah, the little face pad, you tap the pad down, it instantly zooms into first person, so it's seamless transition. Any time in the game you can pop in or out of first person. And there's so many different ways this plays out. You know, you can see your character's legs when you look down, and then when you run, it's not just like, you know, third person run new thing. It's entirely new, what they call locomotion animations. So you can sort of see your guy get up to speed. The camera bobs as you're getting up to speed, like moving up and down with you. When you draw a weapon, you see the weapon out in front of you. When you pull out your phone, it exists as a full 3D object in your hands.
Yeah.
When you get into a car, you see the cockpit of the car. The car cockpits that we'll talk about later are stunning. You see all the liveries, all the stitching, all the detail. You can even see the tracks changing on the stereo when you click through them. Now, you can see your body and presence within that car. It's astonishing. It's like something from Forza. Now, Rockstar have made the customization of first person so extreme, from the point of like utter free aim, so you're completely free to aim in first person as you want, to like an assisted free aim, a semi-assisted free aim. You can have it so you're in first person during shooting but pop out to third person when you go into cover. You can have it so you're only in first person when you're shooting, but when you drive cars that's third person. This is entirely customizable. This is a big deal for GTA, and I think we'll talk about this more in detail as we talk through what we saw.
Yeah.
But this is not just a cosmetic, new camera angle. It's a bigger change to the way GTA will exist now and in the future.
Yeah, you can literally play the whole game pretty much from start to finish in first-person mode. There's new animations for climbing when you're going up ladders, carjacking, parachuting, which we'll talk about later, entering and exiting vehicles. You can do combat roles, get over fences. You can get hit by vehicles in it, which is quite disorientating if you don't turn it, because it can snap off into third-person mode if you get hit by vehicles. We left it on, got hit by a few buses by not looking across the road properly. We'll talk about that later. But it's amazing, and it opens up a whole new world for GTA Online and custom jobs and things like that, which we can talk about a bit later on as well.
Now, what we haven't got much to bring you on today is there's lots of new modes or story asides that have been announced, as you saw in last week's GTA 5 o'clock, where for example there's this sort of film noir murder mystery mission with Michael. There's a new NASCAR racing mode. There's also a new wildlife photography session. Now we said to Rockstar, hey, it would be really cool if we could do some wildlife photography, and whilst they weren't saying no you can't, I think what their attitude was, you can see that, but it would definitely spoil a few surprises for the day in question. And hey, look, let's be clear here, we're 2 and a bit weeks away from the game coming out. Even we didn't want to spoil that, so I think we focused our time more on just free roam and playing and seeing and getting used to the controls and differences. We have got definitely new things to say about animals we've spotted and different stuff, but we're not going to spoil lots of new modes for you. The surprise will be when you get the game.
Yeah, so is that top line stuff, Dan? Should we crack on?
I'm top lined out. Let's get right into it.
So when we first got there, as Dan said, we watched a video of a comparison between the PS3 and the PS4 version, where I believe, Dan, we were back in the same demo room as you and Tim were. How long was that? A year and a bit ago now, when you first saw GTA 5 for the first time?
Yeah, old school GTA 5 o'clock listeners, and if anyone stuck through, I massively salute you. This is over 18 months ago, I think, or similar to that, when Tim Weaver, ex-GTA 5 o'clock host, and I went to see GTA 5 for the very first time. And we sat in that demo room, and for the first time Rockstar showed it to us, and we were like, oh my god, wow, this is just staggering for PS3 hardware. But we'd said it explicitly to the guys from Rockstar, is wow, imagine how good this looks on PS3. And this was at a time when PS4 was just being announced, and we knew it was coming. We were like, how good is this going to look on PS4? And it feels like, I wouldn't say that the end of a journey, but it felt like quite a good moment to go back to the same demo room 18 months on, knowing everything we know, to finally see that same game almost as it was intended to be seen. Staggeringly good. Yeah,
it was really good. So the demo opens. It's nighttime. We're with Franklin. Hopefully we can show you the PS3 version of this replicated now, so you can get a good sense of what we're talking about. It's Franklin. It's nighttime. We're up in the Vinewood Hills, and the camera pans around to show us basically an example of the new draw distance, and you can basically see across the entire city from where we're standing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're playing as Franklin. You can see in his character model, he's so much more detailed. And probably, actually, the character models are the least impressive of the brilliant new things. They quite clearly, as they were there themselves. Even though there are new things, you can see characters blush now.
Yeah, and they've all got different facial animations for different moods that they're in. They can be angry or, you say, bashful or sad.
Yeah, but it's in the uncanny valley of game graphics. But when you look out onto the city, and you're up in the Vinewood Hills, you can see the buzzing neon immediately below of the city streets. You look up to your far left, you can see the Galileo Observatory. But looking out into the distance, you've never been able to see so far in a GTA game, and not just see it as it's a fuzzy background texture, but what looks like, as far as the eye can see, a real buzzing, busy universe. They even pointed out to us, look at the bridge in the distance. You can see the headlights of the cars crossing the bridge in real time, coming across.
And that bridge is it's miles away.
Yeah.
It's 2 or 3 miles in game terms away, and you can see the tiny brake lights of cars going across the lights right over, down at the airport. It was brilliant.
And say that it's the night sky. You can see the neon burning, the lights in the background. There's new depth of field effects, so that when you're focusing in on something close, the stuff in the background can blur out. And again, if you find that annoying, again you can customize it and change it off and turn it around.
Yeah.
So yeah, we looked out at the city, staggeringly good. Anything more to say about that?
No, I like the depth of field thing. I think it's worth picking up on because it's a really interesting feature. So you can do it in first or third person mode, I think, and it's what the camera is focusing on will be your point of interest, and if you move it to something else, things around it can be slightly blurred and you focus on that one thing. But it's a really cool thing for looking at things in extra details around the city. It really brings out the thing that you're looking at. It's a cool feature, but as you say, fully customizable. You can turn it on, you can turn it all the way off. It's depending on how you're going to play the game.
So once we finished taking in that vista, the camera turned around and like Franklin went trudging back up. And again, the first thing you notice is you're on a hill. The foliage on the ground is completely changed. It's much more high resolution detail.
There's much more of it.
Much more of it. It's literally whispering in the breeze and like pushing past as your feet go through. So the foliage is really noticeable. And then we were taken to Franklin's car that had been parked off road, and he had one of the stunning sort of sports cars. This is from the High Life pack, the Pegassi Zentorno, which is like one of the really sexy sports cars. And like again in PS4, it looks astonishing. Like the car looks like almost sort of like it's a mixture of chrome with matte materials. You can see all the light bending off it. It looks rock solid. You get up close and like, when you get in the car and you rev it up, it's so gutsy. And like the light, there's like laser lighting on the back of the car. You can see glimmering off the street.
Yeah, it's got like a neon strip on the back that reflects off the tarmac as you drive around. It's really good. It
looks good. And then again, like you put your foot down, you get the feeling of like the sort of smoke and almost the fire coming out of the exhaust. And these effects are so much more subtle than they were, you know. I don't want to sound like I've gone mad and like, lost light of my senses, but it's genuinely really impressive.
Yeah, if you move the camera down to behind the car just as the exhaust and hold it there, you can just see tiny fumes of exhaust thing just creeping out of the back of it, and that kind of effect is amazing. Those kind of extra little details are the things that are all over this game. So we started driving, Dan. As we started driving, the radio was on. Got a glimpse of some new tracks as well. 150 new tracks on the soundtrack for this version of GTA 5.
Yeah, an astonishing volume of new tracks. Well, you say we're seeding them through the show as we go. The ones we're going to reveal. Also worth noting, it's not just that. There's all new dialogue. And like, again, if you followed the show, you know that Cara Delevingne has recorded all new stuff. But there's also hours and hours of new audio in the game.
Yeah,
and that includes other journalists such as Big Boy on Radio Los Santos, DJ Pooh, Nathan and Stephen on Waves, there's DJ George on Twin Shadow, which is Mirror Park, Kenny Loggins has done new stuff for Los Santos Rock Radio, say Cara Delevingne. So there's new DJ mixes from Flying Lotus and Giles Peterson. Now a really nice thing is when you're actually in the car, it used to be a bit of a pain to have to like hold down the button and then use the wheel to turn the radio stations. You can still do that, that's completely there. You can also use the PS4 touchpad to like quickly flick up and down through radio channels. I thought that was really useful and nice. So you just, as you're driving, you just effortlessly go blip blip blip. What you want next.
Yeah, that was great. So we drove down and we headed onto Vinewood Boulevard, I think, and then you can see, as we pulled up to some traffic lights, there were posters on the right hand side of previous music gigs. And these aren't just layered up anymore like they were on the PS3 version. You can actually see different textures of old ones, and once they've been ripped away, you can see different bits of things being left behind, new ones put on top, and it's a proper like layered texture. It really gives you a sense that it's like a living world. Yeah, the texture detail on the buildings is much, much improved, and as you say, it is that depth. It's more of a feeling of an active world, not the coloured in texture. And the streets as well, like there's, as you get into the city or further out, there's potholes in some of the streets. They all have different textures. The tarmac is worn away, it's got cracks in it and little bumps and things. You can see all of this detail now in the PS4 version. Yep. So we were in the car having a cockpit view, which, as you mentioned, works on all vehicles in the games now. So the helicopters have them, the planes have them, all the cars have them, the motorbikes have them. All the dials display the right thing, they all work. As you've already mentioned, the radio station shows on the radio. It shows you not only the radio station you're listening to, but the name of the track as well, which changes every time there's a new track on the radio. And all in-game TV shows and films are also in high res now as well.
Yeah, it's incredible. And like when you're driving behind the wheel, like it's obviously you see your guy's hands and everything, but you can even push down on the D-pad, and like your character will duck behind the wheel. So see if you're driving in first person, you don't want to get shot, you can hide behind the wheel, but it does, as you'd expect, restrict your line of vision. You
can't see very well.
So we had lots of fun during the Freeroam later on, like trying to gun down the freeway down the wrong side of the track in first person mode. And because of the handling slightly different to what you're used to, it's proper seat of the pants stuff.
Yeah, it's really good. So from there we headed to ammunition. We went into the shop, and the seller of the guns, the store clerk in ammunition, has upred textures. His character model has been slightly redesigned. You can see that he's weightier now. He's got a proper sense of presence to him. And this is when we started looking at the assisted free aim and all of the different aiming options for first person, which you had a little flick through.
Yeah, there's loads of different options in terms of, again, it's quite boring to go through almost, but in targeting mode there's assisted aim full, assisted aim partial. Now full is like the traditional GTA targeting. There's lots of lock on and you bump the character, dub, 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 dub. Partial, sort of the lock on goes away after a few seconds when L2 is pressed. Now free aim assisted is a brief initial lock on if you're near a target and L2 is pressed. There's also some other under the hood stuff that keeps a bead on the target with the right stick. And there's free aim, which is as it sounds. Then you've got first person on foot field of view sliders, first person ragdoll, and there's, like I say, we won't go into first person modes, there's loads of other first person stuff. They've redesigned the HUD a little bit just to be a little bit cleaner. I didn't pick up on it, but you'd noticed it.
Yeah, it's just the map in the bottom left hand corner of the screen that we're all used to. I think it's at a slightly different angle now than it used to be. It just gives you a better sense of where you are in the world, really. It's not a big change, but it's something you might notice when you first load it.
Yeah, it's quite nice. And so we went to ammunition, we scanned through, and we basically had all the weapons unlocked. So when we went out onto the streets a little bit later on, I was keen to see the new big weapon, which is the railgun. Now, it looks pretty cool and impressive as a cut out thing, but when you bring it out in your hands, you're like, it looks big, it looks exciting. But I think my first shot I fired, I missed, and I was almost a bit like, what's the big deal with this gun?
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and it takes absolutely ages to reload. Certainly in GTA terms, it's a big get it ready to shoot. Now, the first time you hit a thing with it, you appreciate what it is. You fire it into a vehicle, and it's almost like the vehicle has a little 0.1 of a millisecond think about it, and then the vehicle just goes bah! And completely explodes. So it's a bit like firing, the grenade launcher stuff, but just much more instant, and it's like a sort of solidified line of explosive death that goes straight into the thing in question. Obviously, hitting a man with it, especially in the face, is bad news for that person. It's really powerful. And again, I wish we'd been able to test it out on something like a tank to see what damage it would have done against that. But against a mere truck, it absolutely decimated it with one shot. It's super slow, but get that shot right, and it's great fun. Yeah,
we had a little play with that a bit later on as well, so we might come back to that. But for now, we then spawned in a chopper to test out the new flying mechanics in first-person mode. And one of the cool new things about first-person mode as well is when you get into a chopper, obviously your character puts on a helmet, and then your field of view gets tinted, as if you're wearing the helmet. So everything has got that sort of weird black tint over it, which is a really cool feature. We flew up in the chopper up over Vinewood Hills. As the sun was coming up, everything moved into dawn. There were fewer cars on the road, and as we went over the hill, we could see down into the lake, and there was a mist rolling in from the lake that you could see in the distance. It's a really nice effect. You flew over into the lake, and the sun reflecting off the sea as it was rising in the sky was amazing. It's just something that you haven't seen before, really. It's great. You think about Watch Dogs and how the water looks in that. I'd say it was better than that.
Oh yeah, and I think again to further qualify the visuals, At its best, I struggle to think of a single next generation game that looks better than GTA 5. I think there's probably none. Part of that is technical, because just in sheer visual terms, this game is astonishing. It's even more impressive when you think about, you know, the volume of stuff you can do at any one moment and the variety. Yeah, it's really something else.
So then we landed the chopper. I saw a pig. Did you catch the pig? There was a pig that ran off down the track.
Oh, yeah. There was a squealing pig.
Yeah, that was really fun. We took the helmet off, and in front of us there was the dancing hillbilly that we've seen before, which I think you very much enjoyed, Dan.
Yeah, it was just the pedestrians, and they've said this, they definitely feel more alive. I think, you know, obviously they always say there's billions of lines of dialogue and it's really realistic, but generally you tend to hear the same conversations and it's a bit stilted. But in these few interactions we saw, it definitely felt richer. Like, this hillbilly guy was really going for it, like dancing around by his stereo, doing a jig. Really quite funny. And like this was borne out later on, where when I first got hands on the pad, you know, like the first thing I saw was just a dude like, walking down the street in front of me. And then, like, as he's there walking along, I was like side shuffling along him. He flips out his mobile and starts chatting away, and it's like a really natural conversation where he's like, "Hey, yeah, good to speak to you. Yeah, well, I can't do Friday," and he's clearly having a conversation with his boss, but it was natural in every respect, other than the fact that he hadn't noticed me moonwalking in front of him to take in the entire scene. But certainly, like, that level of, like, this guy is like a real dude, that was amazing. Like, that really felt better than it ever has. And it might be the animation, it might be the audio, just the way it looks, or the fact it's more realistic in first person. Brilliant.
And that was basically the end of our guided tour around the new Los Santos, and after that it was time to get hands on. So let's have a quick music break, and then we will go into exactly what we did when we got to play it. Right, Dan, so here we are. You have the pad now in your hands a couple of days ago, and I think the first thing you tried to do, as we were still in that location, was punch that hillbilly in the face.
Yeah, I mean, that's my standard reaction to everything. I think there's a point to make about, it's one thing to punch a hillbilly in the face, but another to do it in first person mode. Like, when you pop into first person, like, it's, again, it brings the game to an extra layer of visceral life, and it almost feels like when you're in first person and fighting, almost like an old sort of version of almost like one of the EA knockout games, or like an old sort of Fight Night style thing. And it almost made me think that there's scope for a legitimate first person boxing mode within the game that would work quite well. Like, and again, you know, the way you see people block and move, and, you know, definitely, again, like talking about the guy with the mobile phone, when you randomly lay one on a ped in first person, it really feels like all chaos is kicking off, because your guy's kind of ducking and weaving and the camera's moving.
Yeah,
it just feels much more alive.
Yeah, know? And there's everyone around you reacting to it as well, going, "Hey, what are you doing, guy?" And then you're like, and then some of them start on you, and then you feel really penned in if there's like three people around you trying to punch you in the face. That was great. There's another thing about being in first person as well. I think when we were down by your new hillbilly friend, is there was a car there as well that he had obviously driven there, and you could still see the tyre tracks in the road, because the road was like, you know, it's like sandy and stuff, and you could see the car had come down the tracks, and you could just see what it had left behind when it got there. You had a little walk to the pier as well, and like a group of seagulls flew off as you walked down. It's all of these little extra things that just really bring the world alive. And then it was time, Dan, for maybe the first bit of exploration that we did. We decided, probably as, you know, all the people listening to this now are shouting at us to do, we went to the top of Mount Chilliad to investigate the mural.
Well, yeah, you want to go in and see that the mural hasn't changed and has secretly got the jetpack sitting there or something. Now, we made our way up Chilliad. I think, again, we spawned in a chopper to get up there. So, again, Rockstar helped us with the debug, so we got there pretty sharp. You know, flying feels like it did. You know, it just looks a lot better. The draw distances are a lot better. Landed on Chilliad. Now, obviously, I laid one on the first backpacker I could find, and like punching him out triggered the wanted levels. Now, this did reveal something new. It's a bit of a surprise. When the police start talking about coming to capture you, this comes through the PS4 pad itself out of the speaker. So you can hear the, he's the suspect is on the blah blah blah, like that goes through the pad itself, and it's a really nice touch. And so I could basically hear through the pad the police closing in on my position on Mount Chilliad. But before they caught me, I had time to go to the mural itself
and shoot a garbage bin. Remember?
Oh yeah, this is amazing, right? Yeah, like I thought, I'll test the detail in the game. I'll take a pistol out or a machine gun. I'll shoot a garbage bin. The good news is, it doesn't you don't shoot it and it disappears. Like you shoot it and like lid pops open, rubbish bags come out, rubbish bags get shredded and fall to bits. Like it's really, that level of layering of detail is incredible. I was really, really impressed by that. But then we went basically then to the mural itself.
Yeah, had a look.
Shocking news is, it's exactly as you remember.
Oh, it's the same but in HD.
Yeah, it's the same but in HD. And like we even checked the little door to the left of it to check there wasn't some secret lever or switch. Apart from the high resolution, exactly the same.
Yeah.
You even, when you go out to the platform and it says come back when you've 100%ed it, that's exactly the same as well. So in terms of a surface detail, all that stuff is exactly as was. That is not the end of that chapter. Like, obviously, in terms of the game, there's probably untold mysteries, but certainly aesthetically, that stuff looks the same.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, I got arrested. I was sad anyway, so that was fine.
But when you do have a wanted level, it's worth pointing out another feature that they have on the PS4 pad. It's the light bar on the front of the pad flashes blue and red if you've got a wanted level to warn you that the police are on your tail. So that, as combined with the police audio coming out, is another great thing that you get on PS4.
Yeah, and the pad also, like the light bar changes colour according to which character you're using. So again, it's taking advantage of all the features of the pad. And like we said in previous GTA 5 o'clocks, Rockstar always try to take advantage of the hardware. You can even still, God knows why you'd want to actually do it, you can still steer bikes and planes using the pad's sort of 6-axis style motion function. I did later on in the game try to drive the wrong way up the freeway on a motorbike in first person mode using the pad steering, like using the motion control.
That went really well for you, didn't it?
I mean, put it one way, it's possible, it's rock hard, and I didn't do very well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a bit more about that when we get onto the missions that we played a bit later on. I had a go at driving a motorbike in first person mode, and as Dan says, is hard. Like, it's harder than you'd think, and it's definitely not that wasn't very good at it. So from there, Dan, after you got busted, we were back in the city, and I think I had a little go after that. So I drove a car around for a bit. It's amazing that you can see the dirt and the scratches on the side of the vehicles now when you drive them into things and through muddy areas. They get muddy and they get loads of scratches on them. You can shoot out. I had a little fight with a van, so I shot all of its tyres out. That was great. And you can also see like junk in the back of like flatbed trucks now. They're not just like pictures of things, like it's physical objects in the back of trucks that you can see of like them taking it to the dump or to the house or wherever they're taking it, that kind of thing.
And I think it's the points I want to make really are like, the game can sometimes lull you into a false sense of security that this is all as I remembered it on the PS3 version. And this is when James was walking about like kind of like downtown Los Santos, and suddenly I was like, yeah, I know this street, I know what's going on, I'm used to the cars looking shiny, blah blah blah. Suddenly you go, whoa, what's that? And you're like, a properly furry cat runs past, and you're like, that was an actual cat with actual digital fur. And again, my first thought was, oh, it'd be horrible if they let you shoot the cat, or would it? But yeah, apparently you can become a cat killer. Hey, they're only virtual cats, folks. Do not attempt to do this in real life. We didn't do this, but I'm told that cats aren't bulletproof.
No.
Maybe shooting them is harder than it looks, but they're not bulletproof. And like generally, like again, like you touched on there, James, it's the idea of the enhanced visuals have made the game quieter and louder simultaneously. So the beautiful, peaceful, serene moments are more beautiful and peaceful than they've ever been. But the violent bits, like when you go into first person and beat some dude up, that feels really angry and visceral and quite bloody, and the effects are, it's going to be, it's on the line. Like when you're out there, sending the message to some bros with a knife. Like it feels quite. Oh man, this is a bit. But you know, this is what the game represents. It's all those contrasts, and the noise has been turned up and down simultaneously.
And I think also being in first person, it gives you a tremendous sense of just how big the world is, because you're there at eye level. Then you know the camera isn't pulled back like it is normally. You can see, like, basically, you know, your eye's view of what you can see in the street. So it's like you're walking around, and the city is absolutely huge. If you walked across the city in first person mode, just, you know, wandering around, like trying to get from A to B, it would really give you a sense of like how tall all the buildings are, how far it really is to get from like Michael's house down to the docks and things like that. It's definitely worth exploring.
And it brings familiar moments to life. Like we went down by the Los Santos airport, and you attempted, I think, that sort of mega ramp. You know, the mega ramp. It's like almost like a vertical half pipe section.
The one with the mini on it.
And it's got a mini trapped on it. Now we bombed at that in first person mode. And like it's just hilarious seeing that suddenly go to the vertical, and then all of a sudden, like, we lost completely the run of where we were in the world. The screen is spinning, the sky is spinning. What the hell's going on? And all I remember is like seeing not Starbucks, but whatever the GTA equivalent is, a Starbucks cup in the cup holder, and the next thing you know, like the car was in flames, and it said, you know, you died.
Yeah.
But it is amazing, and I think it just brings those moments to life in a different way.
Yeah, it was great. So then from there, after that minor incident, we decided to go into the sea. I got in a helicopter, we went up.
We went shark hunting, right?
Shark hunting, yeah, because you wanted me to punch a shark in first person mode.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We got a helicopter, we went up really high, jumped out in first person mode, opened a parachute, which was amazing, floating down into the sea, got into the sea and started looking for a shark. Now, even the underwater bits have had the new treatment. So now you get like reeds hanging down just under the surface of the sea. You can see a lot more of the foliage underwater. There's a lot more stuff going on in there. There's lots more animals. And as I was hunting for a shark, we heard this distant whale song. Just like that, yeah.
But better than that.
But yeah, not just like that. And then I turned around and there's a giant whale there, which was amazing. And obviously the first thing to do, as Dan was shouting out, was go and stab it with the knife.
Yeah, that didn't work out very well. I think you tried in a futile way to stab the whale for absolutely ages.
Yeah, I did.
The key thing to point out here is that underwater has probably benefited as much as anything from the high-res upgrade, you know, and it's the way the light diffracts through the surface of the sea below, and the way that light bends and shimmers. It genuinely looks like, you know, like one of the Blue Planet DVDs, you know, like the sort of reason you bought your HD TV. The sound is different, the feel is different. You can see the algae swimming, and like when you see the blue whale or the whale, it's so peaceful and it looks so huge, and there's like a genuine peace and solemnity to these moments. And as I say, whilst the violence is exacerbated, the undersea stuff is beautifully observed. Like I really feel like, you know, this is one of the big improvements. And there was a point later on where we got hold of a sub, and you did some exploring, and like the bright yellow sub looked like almost like one of my child's toys he takes in the bath, like really bright, chunky yellow. The frame rate never drops. There was no clipping on it. It looked like a proper solid little object that you were floating around the real sea. And like again, on top of the sea, the wave patterns and the way it all flows and moves and churns and the light shimmers, it's fantastic. Has there ever been a better sea in video games?
No,
I don't think so.
I think it's the best sea that we've seen so far in video games, definitely. So after I didn't kill the whale, I saw a dolphin, I think at one point as well.
Yeah,
that's another new creature. It was basically we got some time to play some missions, like some new missions, well, some existing missions, but in PS4 vision. So we did come back to first person and free roam a bit later on, but let's talk about the missions that we played for a little bit, Dan.
Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way.
So yeah, that was the Backstreet Boys. I Want It That Way. We figured that if you've stuck with us this far through today's episode, you won't be put off by a bit of Backstreet Boys. That is another one of the new tracks in the soundtrack on the GTA 5 PS4 and Xbox One versions. But we did say we're going to talk about the missions. So Dan, we got to play 3 missions from the single player game.
We got to play 3 familiar but really good missions, and I'd forgotten in fact how intense and fun they were. We got to play Hood Safari. That's when you go back to the version of the Grove. A drug deal goes wrong and you have to shoot your way out. We got to play Queda Libre. That was a really good mission. And then we got to play Derailed.
Yeah, Derailed, the one with the trains and having to be Trevor on the motorcycle and land on top of that train, which, Dan, to everyone's surprise, I may say.
Well, I managed to land first time with Trevor on the train itself, which was amazing. But I think I got so excited that I slowed down to chill out, and then it was impossible to get the speed back up. And like I kept like going along the train, and the gaps between the train at such a low speed, it got progressively worse until I fell off. But until then, it was going really well. Something to note about the missions really is, look, you know those missions. You can watch the walkthroughs on the channel. You've played them. You know what's in them. Fundamentally, the missions are the same. Like the main story missions are the same. They play broadly the same. Yes, the visuals are better. And the new controls really help show it off. But you know the experience, right? And you also know the story. So some of the impact is lessened. But in a way, now you're not in the pressure of like, I must finish this and get through the story to unlock X, Y, and Z. You can enjoy the missions more. And I really did enjoy them when we saw them. And like, again, we tried to play a few of them in first person, and it definitely puts a new spin on it. And like, feels a bit fresher and quite fun. And again, you can view those cutscenes between the missions in the first person, which is a nice touch. Yeah,
I will say it is a lot harder playing it in first person, like we touched on earlier. If you are driving a motorbike at speed down a freeway and across rail tracks and things, there is quite a large potential to get hit by oncoming traffic if you're not looking left and right. I think something we haven't mentioned when you are in first person view is if you hold in R3, the right analog stick, the field of view flicks, like it's like you're turning your head behind and you can see out the back of the car, which is another...
It's almost like a suicide mode of like, dare I drive down the road without not actually seeing where I'm going. But it's a really cool touch because he turns his head in real time and you can see it all.
Yeah, so as Dan mentioned, the missions do play pretty much the same. There are some nice new things in it. I think Ron, in the Derailed cutscene we saw, you can see that he's got like a small beard growing. You can see individual hairs on his face, which was really, really nice. And when in the Hood Safari mission, when they're checking the naughty drugs by giving them a little sniff, you can see the dust particles come off in the air. Yeah, like it's like that kind of stuff. It's like amazing.
And again, when you're fighting your way out, the explosions are so much better. Like when you blow a car up, the new smoke effects and the explosion effects, the fire effects are so much richer and more natural than they were. It really shows up the old gen versions. I especially enjoyed it. I think this is in, is it Queda Libre? Is this the one where you shoot down the plane?
Yeah.
And then you've got to chase the downed plane on the motorbike, dirt bike with Trevor. And you did the dirt bike chase in first person across the countryside. That definitely added a whole new layer of largely crashing.
Wow.
To that. But it was really good fun.
Yeah, so after we'd done those missions, there was a small opportunity to go back and do a bit more free roam stuff, which we definitely took the opportunity to go and do that. What we did was we went to the casino, visited the casino. I'm sure a lot of you will be wanting to hear about the casino. It's still there. It is still opening soon, just like it is in the PS3 version. But that is, it still has the coming soon sign on it. You got to play with the hatchet, one of the new melee weapons for a bit, Dan.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
I went out on a freeway and did literally a hatchet job on a few cops. The hatchet is again, it's on that line, folks. Yeah. It's pretty brutal. Like when you whack it into someone, it gets stuck.
Yeah.
And you have to physically yank it out by pushing your arm across
in there, like shoulder blade.
And it's a proper,
it makes a horrible noise.
First person city based hatchet melees like Carnage is going to be, that's going to make for some pretty extreme footage. So to focus on the Wales and the Blue Planet sections if that ever goes off. But the hatchet is kind of fun, but also ooh.
Yeah. And from there I drove over to Fort Zancudo, and amazingly managed to get in without getting shot in the face too much, and visited the bunker where fans of the game will know is where the UFO spawns above it. There is an elevator there. The elevator in the PS3 version doesn't work, but it does have a -1 sign on it, like the elevator is stuck below ground. All of that is still there in the PS4 version. The button still doesn't work, the elevator still doesn't open, but that, I thought, was one of the things you'd want to know about, going, why didn't you go and visit the Fort Zancudo elevator, you idiots? We did, and it's just the same. So Dan, in summary, it's an amazing new experience, I think, well worth playing again. There's so much in there that will like justify you going and replaying it from start to finish again. Not only is there everything we've talked about today, but we haven't even talked about the stuff we said on last week's show, like all of the new exclusive content you get for returning players. There's all of the new murder mystery missions. There's the wildlife photography challenges. You've got the hatchet and the railgun to go and play with. There's all of the stuff from the DLCs that have been released on PS3 and Xbox 360.
You've got the hidden Dodo seaplane. You've got the In Pont Duke of Death, which is basically the Mad Max car to find. Again, there's hints on the Rockstar Newswire about how you're going to do that. It sounds like largely it's going to involve shooting lots of people in the face to get hold of those things. That's really cool. Like Rockstar is stressing to us, as you play, you will keep unearthing new things. There might be new conversation trails. We don't know how the Epsilon program will be built out or expanded, or if people seem to think that actually the key to understanding the Chilliad conspiracy was the way you played it and the choices you made,
the moral
affect
choices.
the path. Let's see if that's built out or any more explicit. The thing with it all is, once you adjust to the fact that visuals are much, much better, which your brain will surprisingly do in about 5 minutes, there will be moments you'll play and think, wait there, this is a familiar experience through familiar streets playing familiar missions. But every now and then, something will happen that will shock you out of your apathy almost.
Yeah.
Whether it's like a cat darting across, a pedestrian conversation, a graphical detail, a change in a weather effect. Even things like, as I say, shooting the bins was exciting.
Yeah.
I got excited taking a shotgun to the side of a military van or like a police van and just putting 3 big shotgun shells in the side. The way those shells deformed the car looked like when you shoot the T-1000 melty Terminator in Terminator 2. It looked like real metal impact with puncture points. It's amazing. So just playing with that kind of stuff is fun. First person mode completely freshens it up. Big thing for me on first person mode to note is Rockstar, in a way, despite having one of the biggest free roaming open worlds, they were a prisoner to their own format, which is the third person format, right?
Yeah.
Which meant that intrinsically GTA was never going to be a direct competitor to other big games in the world like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Far Cry, you name it. They had a different take on an open world than GTA could ever provide. Not anymore. This is, as much as it is a cool thing, it's a strategic move, I think, from Rockstar to allow GTA to be almost an all genres game that allows you to show it from any perspective. You think of what they do in something like, Forza Horizon, you can do something similar in GTA. You want to play a first-person shooter, you play it in GTA. You want to play a squad-based first-person shooter, play it in GTA. You want to play a game like Battlefield Hardline, play it in GTA. It's all those modes are there. And again, we should talk briefly about some of the changes that are coming to GTA Online, because this will further solidify the use of first-person mode. You can use first-person all the way through GTA Online. When you create missions, you can lock them as first person only.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to make effectively first person deathmatch maps.
Yeah.
It's becoming like shooters, and it's really starting to cover all bases. I think this is brilliant on Rockstar's part, because they can release DLC packs that are just first person focused, and they can make them shooters or whatever it's going to be. We've also got a bit of a nod towards heists, haven't we?
Yeah, they briefly mentioned heists, that they're coming. I know it's been a bone of contention for some people. They are still coming. I think we're looking at soon, I think was the word that was used.
Yeah, you don't want to read too much into it, but the soon did feel quite soon indeed. And I think it's more a case of they've got to roll out the next gen versions first, possibly even the PC version first. We'll see, which is obviously January. But I wonder if, like James had speculated, will the heists, if they're playable in first person, like a spin-off of heists being first person squad based shooters, that's quite popular right now. That, you know, Destiny is obviously different, but Destiny is like first person squad based performing an activity versus AI. This is what the heist could be. Like, it's really exciting, and it's, as I say, the first person mode's built out to an extent that it's not just some cosmetic camera thing. It's a big change to the way you play the game.
No, you start playing heists in first person mode, you give one team control over the cops, one team control over the criminals, and you go, here is the point. I mean, it's basically is Battlefield Hardline, like the beta that came out. It's just that, like, people will drive vehicles in, some people have tanks, helicopters, you drive in, you get the loot, you get it back to your hideout, and you repeat the process. Like, what they've done is allowed people now, with the creator tools as well, to basically make any kind of deathmatch you want in the world of GTA. You can set it where you want, you put the barriers in, you put the weapons in, you can make it capture the flag, you can make it team deathmatch, you can make it 1v1. You do basically whatever you want. It's going to open up a whole new, different way of playing the game, I think.
And, you know, again, the game is all there in the details. It's going to the swamps, you see the mist, which is new, you go to the forest, you can now see fireflies in the forest. Like, the game, when you drive in first person, you can see your character bobbing his head to, like, you know, dance to the music. It's covering in what GTA always did so well, from the sublime to the ridiculous to the extreme to the violent to the peaceful to the chaotic. You know, not all of life is in GTA, but cartoon projections of it. And, you know, on next gen, it's never been more vibrant. Like, you know, it's, I don't know, I just think it's the best GTA it can currently be. And everything that embodies. And that times can be boring, and at other times can be the funnest, most exciting, you know, on the fly thing it can ever be.
And while we're on the subject of GTA Online, we should just mention the increased player count has gone up to 30 players. We knew that from previous shows, so that's a total of 30 plus 2 spectators if you want. There are cross-gen and cross-platform saves, so if you've got it on PS3, you can transfer your character over to PS4 and continue playing on your PS4.
Here's big news, because this was rubbish previously, let's be clear about it. There's a new character creator with ease of use improvements. That mum and dad system, a cool idea, rubbish. Right, it was rubbish, right? It's really hard to get anything other than 5 broadly potato-faced characters out, right? If they've made that work properly, brilliant. We haven't had a chance to test it. No. Thank God.
Okay. There are also 150 new props to the GT Online creator tools and double the prop placement limit, and all new gameplay upgrades and Rockstar created content released since launch will be available for PS4, Xbox One and PC players when it comes out on PC.
And all the content ever made, including all your levels, will exist on next gen. All the previous packs like High Life, the business update, you name it, it's coming across. It's rad. It's worth pointing out that when you first sign up, and I ask, because, you know, hey, I've, you know, finished the PS3 version. When will how will the game know that I played the previous version? I think basically you'll be prompted to sign in using your cloud, your Rockstar ID. And after that point, you know, it will sort of flick the switch to say you've played the game previously. But it should be something you do once right at the start of the game.
All right. So unless you've got anything else for this week, Dan. That is GTA 5 on PS4, our exclusive hands-on demo time. This show has been about an hour long, so
holy moly! Sorry for
listening. There'll be no show tomorrow, obviously because of this show going out today, but we will be back next week. And I thought next week, Dan, we should probably try and do a Q&A. So if you've got any questions that we haven't answered that you think we might be able to answer next week, put them in the comments below. Get in touch on Twitter at GTA Video Clock or on Facebook at facebook.com/GTA Video Clock, and we will print them out and try and quiz each other next week and go through some of your questions.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with us for this massive journey. The journey continues. It looks like GTA is just going from strength to strength. And hey, the game will be rad and good fun, so thumbs up to that.
We will see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. GMT. So thanks for listening.